So according to the internet, okay, he is responsible for writing Oliver Twist, which many of you may have read before, David Copperfield, A Christmas Carol, A Tale of Two Cities, and Great Expectations, to name a few, because he did a lot of works, okay? And who is he? He is Charles Dickens. Now, you might not remember Charles' name. It really depends on how much you're into like literature and stuff like that. But you more than likely have seen A Christmas Carol, because every year there is a production around Christmas time of A Christmas Carol. There's movies, there's plays. When I was in 8th grade, I played Ebenezer Scrooge in our 8th grade play. What I didn't know at the time was that the play, the book, the whatever, I think it was first released as a book, but it was written by an Aquarius. Charles Dickens is Aquarius, and his main character, Ebenezer Scrooge, was also Aquarius. Charles said that Ebenezer was born on the same day as him. So I thought that was so cool that I had that connection and didn't even know about it, right? So I do like Dickens. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Dickens and the famous things that he did during his lifetime. But he did something I really didn't like. He did something really messed up, and I'm having a hard time because he's one of my favorite, he's like one of my favorites, but at the same time, what he did was really, really fucked up. So I'm going to tell you more about this situation, but first, let me do the introduction. Hey, I'm Queen Osset Haru, and thank you for joining me for another wonderful edition of Ask an Aquarius. If you haven't already, please hit the red subscribe button and smack the bell. Also, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, pass it on to somebody else who might like it too, and don't forget to drop us a positive comment in the comment section. And stick around to the end of the video because I'm going to read some of my favorite positive comments from previous videos, and one of them might be yours. If you would like to get a reading done, please email me. If you would like to send me a gift through my Amazon wish list, all of that is in my email is underneath this video. If you would like to become a patron on Patreon, that's underneath this video. There's Ask an Aquarius merchandise underneath this video. So basically, and my social media is also underneath this video. So basically, check out underneath this video. So let me tell you some more about Charles. So Charles John Huffman Dickens was born February the 7th of 1812. He passed over June 9th of 1870. So he was born in Aquarius, and looks like he died in what I think might be Gemini. I'd have to Google it, but he died June 9th of 1870. So was he very Aquarius? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. He was very Aquarius in a number of different ways. First of all, as you're getting ready to see from some of the facts, he was very, very intelligent. Aquarius, a lot of us are very intelligent. Number two, he was a workaholic. A lot of us, including myself, have often been accused of working too much. He also was very creative. He came up with a lot of different books. I don't remember the last count, but it was like 40 something, books and short stories. And it might have even been more than that. They said that right before he died, he was still working on something. That's how Aquarius is. Aquarius be in it. If we love something, we are in it. So he had a lot of that Aquarius, energy going on as far as that's concerned. But he also has some of the classic Aquarius flaws, as you're about to find out. So let me tell you a little bit about his life. Basically, as I said, he was an English writer and a social critic. The thing about him is that he lived a very difficult childhood. He lived in a family where I think his parents had 8 children and 2 of them died. And his parents He had pretty decent parents. They were like trying to give him a good upbringing. But the problem was that his father ended up in what they call debtor's prison. So basically what happens is if you owe a debt to someone, they can have you arrested and you have to go to jail for this debt. But the problem is that while you're in jail for the debt, you're not making any money to pay back the debt. So you just basically stay in jail until hopefully somebody else, a family member or somebody else, pays your debts and gets you out of jail. The real bad part about this is when you went to debtor's prison, if you had a family, your family had to go with you because there was nowhere else for them to go. Your wife, your kids, all of you would be in this debtor's prison type thing. It was awful. So his father ended up in debtor's prison. All of the kids and his wife were there with him. Charles got a room nearby so that he could work. Child labor wasn't a thing back then. And he was working at some kind of factory with all these fumes. And he was a kid, like 11, 12 years old. And he had to work at this place for like 6 pennies a week and take his money, pay for his boarding house, his boarding room, and anything else that he needed, and still put money towards his father's debt. So he was doing this grueling work at such a young age, and he did manage to get his family out. So because of that situation, because of all of the things that he saw, when he started to write, because writing wasn't his first thing. His first thing was he wanted to act. But he lost his chance. He got sick before his audition, couldn't go on the audition, and could never get another audition. So he decided to start to write. As he started to write these fictional characters, he was writing about characters who basically could be me or you. It could be anybody, but he was really giving social commentary. So Aquarius is real crafty with it, you see? So he was trying to entertain his audience with these stories and, the Christmas Carol and Bob Cratchit and Tiny Tim, all these, wonderful characters. But his commentary is about behavior. So like if you look at A Christmas Carol, his commentary is about the behavior of the rich and how the rich, live in opulence while the poor people, basically in that time period that he was in, and some people still in this time period were starving. So his commentary was on the child labor, the exploitation, whatever Dickens saw as being a social problem. Here's that Aquarius. We always got that humanitarian thing going on. So whatever he saw as being a social problem, he would write a story about and bring attention to it. Like Oliver Twist, for example. Oliver Twist is a story about a young, well-to-do little boy who accidentally gets separated from his family and ends up in one of those detention homes, and one of those, debtor's prisons. And his commentary in that was to show people this could be you. Just because you're affluent and royalty and well-to-do up there, living in the lap of luxury, doesn't mean this could not be you or somebody who's really a decent person. Because in the mindset of the English people that were around him, people who were poor were beneath them. And they were like, they kind of deserved to live that life, because they were just, ew, they had that kind of attitude, some of them, a lot of them. The aristocrats, and Charles was speaking against that whole mindset and child labor. How dare you make these little children work and these debtors prisons, he would constantly pump out, these entertaining, because he was like, in his time period, he was like a rock star. He would have been, again, here we go with the Aquarius. A lot of Aquarius are experts in their field. A lot of Aquarius are like rock stars in their field. So in his particular case, he would have been like Michael Jackson, Beyonce. He would have been big, the Beatles, because he did all these tours. He went to the United States. He went all over Europe. He was touring and doing, selling his book and doing readings. And they said that he would give such impassioned readings. He was so creative and so interesting. And he would give these impassioned readings of his own work. So the creativity was just through the roof, and he made money hand over fist. He was just that dude. So here he came from nothing to the height of what they call today a literary genius of the Victorian era. So I'm just like, wow, you go from a little boy, working in a factory to get your parents released from debtor's prison to, a leader in the Victorian literary genius. Like, amazing. So again, Aquarius have this tendency to be ahead of our time, to be creative, to hit these heights. And they said that was a large part of why he was able to, become such a literary genius, was because his creativity. Nobody was doing what he was doing. People, they were, I think in different time periods, you might have seen it, because I'm thinking like back to like maybe the ancients, you might have seen some of that energy. But at the time period and the way that the literary, genre was going at that moment, people were not doing that. People were pretty much putting on productions to entertain. Dickens decided to entertain and to teach through these entertaining mediums. And it worked. It worked for him. It made him a millionaire. I guess in today's standards, he'd be a millionaire. So what is the T? What did he do that I did not like? Well, first of all, like many Aquarius, he was very good with these humanitarian efforts, and he was really good with social justice. But he was a crap husband and a crap father. We saw this same thing go on with Thomas Edison, another Aquarius. And this is something that many Aquarius men and women are accused of being better with our causes, better with the public, better with our clients or whatever we're dealing with than we are with those who are close to us. And this is true. This is true for a lot of Aquarius. I struggle with it. I struggle with, really showing up in my relationships, because it's easy to show up for work. It's easy to show up for my clients. There's no, like, I might love them or even care about them or even, be close with them. Some of my clients are my friends, but it's easier to show up in that capacity than it is one-on-one for Aquarius. So a lot of us get accused of this. But in his case, his children felt neglected. He had 10 children. 2 of them died. His children felt neglected. His wife felt neglected. And it seemed like in the beginning, everything was pretty cool between him and the wife. But it seemed like as she kept having babies, and it was funny to me because in the autobiography, he blamed it on her. And I was sitting there like, she's not getting pregnant by herself, my man. You were in the room, so why are you blaming her? But for some reason, he blamed her for all these children and started to resent her for all these children and separated their beds in their rooms. And then they went on to actually part. And this was something that really did not occur back then. It wasn't common for, couples to get divorced. And what I didn't like about it, I didn't really mind the fact that they got divorced. I didn't really care about that. I did mind that he wasn't a better husband and father to all these kids. The things that he said about his kids, he thought they were leeches. He thought that, like, he had a lot of bad things to say about his own children. So here you are, like, this social justice warrior, but you have no relationship with your own wife and kids. And it seems like he did at first. It seemed a lot better in the beginning. He had nicknames for all his children. Him and his wife were really close. And over time, and his wife, when I read what she said in her letters, she said fame changed him. So maybe that was the problem, And of course, fame changed her too, because all these kids, all this stress, not being, beautiful and young forever, that was one of the things she complained about and thought that was something. She thought that was a problem too. Like she didn't feel like she was, she was too plain for him, is basically what he told her. Well, I didn't mind that part. I didn't mind the fact they were breaking up. I thought, okay, couples break up. What bothered me was he tried to have her committed. Now, during his time of writing, in the early years, he did a lot of interviews with people who were in these debtors' prisons and these places, homeless people, and he did a lot of work for charity and things like that to help these people. And he did a lot of interviews with them. And I couldn't understand, as somebody who had been to asylums, somebody who had been to these places and saw the conditions that they were kept under, especially during that time period, how could you then try to have the mother of your children committed because you met a young 18, this is the T, y'all, 18-year-old girl, an actress, that you're having an affair with? So instead of just having your affair and just, doing what you do, unscrupulous, you want to have her committed. So I was like, Charles, dude. So here we go. He had all this light. He did all these good things, got his family out of debtor's prison. And, he did all of this stuff that I greatly admire. And then you do something slimeball like that. That was low. For somebody with so much intelligence and creativity and character, that was low. That was really low, because he had several different properties. It's not even like he had to show up in the relationship. All he had to do was not divorce his wife, because back during that time period, if two people grew apart, they just stayed married and lived in different residences. That's all he had to do. He could have lived in a different residence with his 18-year-old girl and kept it moving. But instead, he tried to have her committed. Well, I don't know if that was, if that scared her, or if somebody said, yo, your husband is, your husband trying to get you. I don't know if somebody said something to her or she just figured it out, but she left on her own and they never saw each other again. He kept the children and she left with the oldest. The oldest child was old enough to leave. According to the law, they said he had custody of all the kids. And he really didn't like them talking to her. So he was like real shady with his whole family dynamic. And then the kids were like, you weren't even there for us, so what's up? And the kids also said that there was nothing wrong with their mother. They said their mother was just a regular person. She did not have mental illness, and that their father was lying. And now, in present tense, a lot of this is coming out because letters that were written by the wife, all kinds of stuff has been uncovered, and it's at places, and it's being looked at, and we're finding out all the tea about Charles Dickens. So I guess he was a great person, did a lot of wonderful things, but did a lot of shade too, a lot of things that were kind of messed up. He also got into a really bad accident, and I thought this was interesting. A couple years before he died, like 5 or 6 years before he died, he got into a really bad accident, and I think he was in some type of a train accident, and the trains, or the things it was more than one train attached, and 2 or 3 of them went into the water, and his was just dangling over. And it stopped in time that he did not die. He didn't go into the water. And I believe he was with his mistress at that time. And they said that he got out and was, helping, risking his life to help the people. Some of them died. And he was risking his life to help these people. And his manuscript was stuck in the train. And they said he climbed back in to save his manuscript. So he was a very interesting and passionate gentleman, but he just had some issues. So that is Charles Dickens. But he's remembered fondly. I love Ebenezer Scrooge. I love The Christmas Carol. I read his other works when I was younger. I don't remember them as well, but I did read them for school. And so I think that he's just one of those characters, but it just reminds me of that energy of Aquarius, you know, how he had this great public social persona, but couldn't even get it together in his own house, you know? So that's our boy. That's our infamous Aquarius, Charles Dickens. So I got one message from Coffee Pot. Hey, Coffee Pot, thank you for your positive comment. Coffee Pot said, please, Queen, make a video one day about how to improve communication with an Aquarius. The only way to improve communication with an Aquarius is for the Aquarius to want to communicate. I get a lot of questions from people who have non-communicative Aquarius. And I did a video about it before. If you want to search Ask an Aquarius non-communicative, and it should come up. But basically, if an Aquarius doesn't want to communicate, they're not going to communicate. We shut off. So if your Aquarius is shut off and refuses to communicate with you, you have to decide, is that a relationship you want to be in? Because communication is the most important part of a relationship. So if your Aquarius hasn't learned that, because I mean, many of us fall into this, many of us have a communication issue, but most of us figure it out. We figure out how to deal with it, how to work around it. We figure out some coping mechanisms. We do something. If your Aquarius hasn't done that yet, your Aquarius might not care or might not be aware. And that's going to be a difficult relationship to have with a person who doesn't know how to communicate. You feel me? All right, Baby Doll. Baby Doll said, love your Niffler pictures. Baby Doll, thank you so much. I got this giant Niffler I bought myself for Christmas. My Niffler is giant. And the other day, I took some pictures with my Niffler. So if you want to see them, go to my Instagram. The link is underneath this video. And I got pictures of all kinds of stuff. And one of them is my Niffler. I love my Niffler. Thanks, Baby Doll. All right, guys, come back soon because I got a lot more to say. See you later.